Oh look, Tress is on top again. I'm a Tress of the Emerald Sea kind of girl, and I'm okay with that. Let's rank these secret projects from the year of Sanderson. I am going to say that every one of these books is good, but they each have their own strengths and weaknesses. I know there's some pretty well-established favorites and a pretty well-established least favorites, but I wanted to be a little more fair, give each book a chance to show its strengths. So I'm going to rank these in different categories, then add up those categories at the end for overall rankings. My categories are going to be plot, setting, characterization / character growth, pacing, magic, and my overall feelings while reading them. But my overall feelings are not going to go into the final ranking at the end because that's just too subjective. I'm actually going to start with characterization because that's my favorite thing about reading. I'm in it for the characters. I'll give my little tidbit in each category in release order. So I'm going to start with Tress and then just go down in order that we got them. One of the things with Tress's character growth was that she had to face her fear and do really hard things for love, for the person she loved. Her character growth was incited at first by loving somebody. Her love made her go out, and the going out is where she learned about herself and grew so much. I also liked that Tress was not just about Tress, it was also about her relationships with her crewmates. You don't always get a book where a character has friends, and then each one of those friends also got their own growth arc. Tress herself was also just really likable. She was smart and didn't do the dumb thing that a lot of main characters tend to do, which made me feel proud of her. The Frugal Wizard's Handbooks for... I can never just say it. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England is probably the most character-driven of the 4 secret novels. The main character, Runian / Johnny, has to, over the course of the book, discover his true identity, and then he has to dig even deeper and discover his true self, because who he was in the real world before coming to where he is in this story is the person he made into himself. And I did a whole character study on him. I like this character a lot. He has to face the reality that he has compared himself to this particular friend all his life, find out that that friend is not the person he always thought he was, and hopefully discover that he is a person who deserves friends. In Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, we get Yumi and Painter. Yumi in this book gets the chance to finally learn more about the world around her, and in learning about the world, she is able to learn more about herself. She's never had the chance to get to know what she likes and dislikes because her life has been the same every single day. But I think Painter has the bigger arc. He's the one who did the worst thing, and he has to try to forgive himself because not forgiving himself is what's holding him back. The Sunlit Man, Nomad. I want to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, but part of his characterization is the thing that he did in the past, which I can't say or it's spoilers, but on his world that he is from, it is one of the worst things he could have done. And his character arc is dealing with that past thing. It's him running away, and it's his struggle with whether to be selfish or selfless. Can he come back to being his old self, the one that swore to protect? So in this first category of characterization, I rank them thus: Tress, Wizards, Yumi, Sunlit Man. On to plot. Starting with Tress of the Emerald Sea, again, Tress had, I think, the most straightforward plot. It's an adventure story. It's a romance. She goes on her journey, her quest. It's dangerous. Her love is lost and she goes to pursue him, having adventures along the way. And there is a Sanderson twist that the observant reader might be able to guess before it's revealed. That was not me. The plot of Wizard's Handbook has several ingredients all mixed together. You have the time travel, dimension travel. The guy who wakes up with no memory has to figure out who he is along the way. He's trying to get home. He's also trying to help the locals. He's trying to figure himself out. This one is not super plot driven. It is definitely more character driven. The plot of Yumi and the Nightmare Painter has that whole body changing thing. The two characters have to figure out each other's lives and therefore figure out together how to solve their problems, or each other's problems, or their problems that might go together. They don't know. They have to figure it out. This is also the only one of the four where part of the main plot has to do with saving the world. That's such a common theme among fantasy. It's kind of nice to have one where the entire world isn't at stake. In this one, I felt like it was okay though, especially since it was the only one. It wasn't like, okay, we get it. Every secret project, they have to save the world. At times, it could be hard to tell what the plot was because of the body changing. The plot to the Sunlit Man, again pretty straightforward, like Tress of the Emerald Sea. The man on the run gets caught up in the local trouble. But the simple plot is no less meaningful. He, as a character, has to dig deep to find resolution. I did not know how it was going to end. It kind of kept me guessing, more because of his characterization. My cat's being noisy. Plot ranking. Oh look, Tress is on top again. Then Sunlit Man, Yumi, Wizards on bottom. I'm sorry, Wizards, but you were not plot-driven. On to setting. And knowing Sanderson, he loves different and unique settings. Tress might be the weirdest one of all of them, with its magical spore seas. Magic oceans that explode in water. People still sail the seas, but it's a lot more dangerous than if it were just water. And I like that Sanderson was brave enough to do something totally weird and make it work and make the story good. He is a man who likes to have unique world building and then use that world building to further the plot. That's one of the things he does really well. Wizard's Handbook has an interesting setting in that it is simultaneously far future and far past. Guy from the future time travels and dimension travels back to medieval England, where magic might exist. Little sci-fi, little fantasy, definitely kind of on the weird side. The thing that made Yumi and Painter's world so interesting was that it was two such separate worlds. You had the one that was kind of stuck in the past in the more fantasy style. Then you had the world that was more futuristic, a little more sci-fi-ish. But they were both very obviously the same world, if you will. You didn't feel like you were reading two separate books when you went between their point of views. Both the fantasy and sci-fi sides have huge anime influences. You can tell in the writing style and in the art. I'm not ranking the art, but I am saying that I liked it. The Sunlit Man has a really interesting setting. It's in the Cosmere, it's on a planet we've never been to, and it has an invested sun that burns the whole planet every day. And the humans have to survive by staying in constant motion. They stay in flight, trying to stay ahead of the sunrise. So for setting, Tress just has the most unique and cool setting. Okay, then Yumi and Painter, Wizards, and Sunlit Man, I'm sorry. The setting was cool. Now I feel bad that it's on the bottom. As for pacing, Tress of the Emerald Sea was very linear. I felt like it moved forward at a very steady pace. It felt like it spent the right amount of time on the characters and then moved on to the next plot point. Tress is not an action-packed book, but it also didn't feel like it dragged. I think that is a sign of good pacing. The Wizard's Handbook feels a little meandering because it's more character-driven than plot-driven. We know what he's trying to do. Johnny wants to get home. He's learning who he is. He's trying to get to an end point, but it's not really about getting to the end point. It's about finding himself. It's more about what happens on the way to the end point. I have this one ranked the lowest for pacing. Pacing for Yumi and the Nightmare Painter was a little confusing because it started really cool when you're getting introduced to the main characters and you have the nightmare and then the rock stacking and the spirits, and that's very cool. Then you get to the body switching and then it slowed way down. That kind of Groundhog's Day feel, repeating the same thing over and over. And as the characters were trying to figure out what to do to progress what they were doing, I kind of had the feeling of, come on, when's the story gonna progress? And then the ending was very good. Action-packed, Sanderson ending, you know. In The Sunlit Man, it starts fast, then it stays fast. In some ways, the pacing of the story matches the world building, because the people on Canticle are always on the move, always moving, always having to stay ahead of that sunrise. And Nomad, the character, always is on the run, always having to stay ahead of the Night Brigade. This was the action book. Of the four, this one has the most action. Pacing, probably no surprises here. Tress was the most well-paced book. It felt right every time. Fast-paced, you're never bored when you read this one. Wizards, little meandering. It doesn't have to be the top, it's okay. Another thing that Sanderson is well known for and loves to be creative with is his magic. 3 of the 4 secret novels are all in the Cosmere, and the Cosmere style magic is all kind of the same idea on each world, but done differently. In Tress, we get the primal aethers. Totally spore-based, little pollen-sized things that when they touch water, they do something. It can get very overpowered, and it can get very explosive. Also, if you've read the 4th Mistborn Era 2 book, I read Tress before reading that one, and so kind of finding out about aethers before the character that uses aethers was interesting because I actually knew what he was doing. If I had read that one first, I might not have known what was going on there. The Wizard's Handbook is less magical. It's a little more science fiction based because of the time travel, and then when they get back in time, we're not really sure what the magic actually is. The people who live there certainly believe in magic. Johnny just automatically doesn't believe it's real, but starts to maybe think, seems like weird stuff's actually happening. There's some spirit magic. It's a lot less science-y feeling magic than some of the other Cosmere books. In Yumi, the magic is very spirit-based, but it's not bonding with a spirit kind of magic like in the Stormlight Archive. The people in the world utilize them, fight them. I don't know, it was kind of a different type of magic than we've seen from Sanderson, and I liked it. I thought it was cool and well done. The magic in The Sunlit Man is probably the easiest to understand if you're already a Cosmere fan. We have the sun, which is highly invested, which then in turn invests the hearts. I almost said gem hearts. Sun hearts, cinder hearts, you know. It's a lot like Stormlight, but different. It's your normal Cosmere magic, but its own flavor for that world. For magic, my top and bottom ones are the same, but I did switch these 2 around, and only because the magic in Yumi was a little more unique than the one in Sunlit Man. Sunlit Man was almost too recognizable, which is fine, but I thought this one was a little more interesting. As for my overall feelings, Tress is probably my favorite of the 4. I loved it, and I feel like this one of the 4 of them could be marketed to a female audience, not just because there's a female main character, but that sweet, simple romance. It's an uncomplicated plot. It's not about the action. I also always love a book about a journey or a quest. It was adventurous. I liked it. That was my favorite. Ranking number 1. My overall feelings for these books actually kind of go in their release order because my second favorite is the Wizard's Handbook. It was weird at first. I was not sure what I thought about it, but I got really invested into Johnny's character. And this is part of the reason I wanted to keep my personal feelings out of the ranking as much as I could, because it's objectively probably not the best one of the 4. But I liked it because I liked Johnny the character. The art was also really cute. My overall feeling for Yumi and the Nightmare Painter was positive. I really enjoyed it. I was really concerned with the foreshadowing that was happening. I did not know what was going to happen at the end, but at the end I was not disappointed. My overall feelings for The Sunlit Man were the least positive. I am not saying that The Sunlit Man was bad or the worst one, but it was my personal least favorite. It did not make me feel happy. It's not a feel-good story, which it was not supposed to be. That wasn't the point. In fact, some people would probably prefer The Sunlit Man because it is the action-packed, it's a little darker feel, a little more depressing. Some people want that. But of these 4, I'm a Tress of the Emerald Sea kind of girl, and I'm okay with that. The last category of my personal feelings, take it or leave it, Tress is my favorite. Wizards, although it was at the bottom of a lot of the categories, I liked because I like Johnny. I loved this one, and I liked this one. None of these are bad. This one is on the bottom, but I didn't hate it. I just liked the other ones better. And adding up the 5 categories, final ranking is this. No way! It was at the top of each category. It was just a well done and lovely book. There's probably not going to be any surprises here, and this is probably not going to be controversial at all, nor an unpopular opinion at all. Number 2 is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. So many of the things were well done, good story, good ending, eat noodles, save the world. Coming in at number 3, Sunlit Guy, the Sunlit Man. Although it was not my personal favorite, I am trying to be objective, and this one was better than Wizards. I'm sorry, Johnny, but I also understand. Also, for fans of Sanderson and the Cosmere, it makes sense that the non-Cosmere book is at the bottom. I still like it. All right, your turn. How would you change this ranking, or at least what would you have put higher in one of those categories? I won't be offended. I know I tried to keep my feelings out, but they probably did not stay out all the way. I will link the playlist of my reviews for all 4 of these, and then after that you can also watch my character studies from each one. Actually, from the first 3, I haven't made the one for Nomad yet, but I will. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for some more videos. Bye.